So what is software quality? It's a big term, right? A buzzword. In today's world, companies would like to do anything to improve the software quality or even willing to, spend many dollars to improve the software quality. But what exactly is software quality? I mean, how do we perceive what constitutes the quality and why quality is good or bad? It's a very simple answer. In terms of software development, quality is all about your ability or your code's ability to handle all the permutations and combinations. And as a human being, it's not possible for us while writing code to remember all the permutation combinations. And that's the precise reason we need to do something or apply some practice to maintain the quality of the code, a code which takes care of all the permutation and combinations which are written today and things that are going to be written in the future. So welcome everyone to this particular live stream. In this live stream, we are going to talk about test-driven development. It's a practice of extreme programming. So if you are working in software industry, I bet that you must have heard about this term called test-driven development. And it is also considered as something which improves the quality of the code in a drastic way. So here is how it goes. So keep your questions and comments coming. I will first go through the test-driven development. I have created a very decent picture for you to explain the things because I believe in pictographic learning. I want to explain things in pictures. Then I'm going to show you a very small demo and then I will take all your questions in this topic. So here is how we will proceed ahead with this term. But before we go ahead and understand what is test-driven development, let us understand one thing. The quality of the software is paramount not for you, not only for your team, but also for the organization for which you are working. So always remember, to improve the quality, you need to do something. A code quality will not be improved automatically. Okay, it's not an artificially intelligent entity. To improve the code quality, you need to work on it and you need to do something. And the precise things we are going to do with the help of what? Test-driven development. So let's go ahead and start our understanding of test-driven development, what it is and how we can make use of it. Okay, so we are going to talk about test-driven development. As I already told you, test-driven development is a part of extreme programming practice. People remember, extreme programming is older than agile and even older than agile manifesto. Okay, it is considered as one of the first true agile practices propagated by software developers to make sure that we write better code, we write quality code. Test-driven development is part of that, and it comes under what we call it as fast feedback. You do fast feedback. And why do you need fast feedback? You need faster feedback to make sure that if you are doing something wrong or if something is not going as per what you wanted it to be, you get to know in the beginning. And that's the thing what fast feedback does with test driven development. So we are going to see test driven development, but before seeing test driven development, we will understand the steps of test driven development. Okay, so there are 4 steps of test driven development. Okay, step number 1, write enough failing test before writing the code. So before writing any production code, you need to write enough failing test cases. Okay, so you will say what is the meaning of enough. So in this particular case, enough is very subjective. For a new programmer, it may be just one function. For an experienced programmer, it may be 20, 30, 40 lines of code. And if you are a superhuman, maybe you can write test for complete product and then start writing code. So enough depends upon individual, and whatever individual thinks this is enough, is actually enough for that individual. So as a software developer, whenever you are writing the code, make sure that you are writing enough failing test case before writing the code. Now, once you have written enough failing test cases before writing the code, you have to write enough code, enough production code to make sure that these failing test cases are passing. Okay. Step number one, write the test cases, failing test cases. We will see it, see an example over here. Write the failing test case, then write just enough code to pass those failing test case. And third step is refactor the code if required, code as well as test. So over a period of time, once you refactor the code or refactor the test, or let's say you increase the code, you end up refactoring the code, and if you refactor the code, it's highly likely that you need to refactor the test also. So step 3 is refactor the test, and step 4 is go to step 1, go back to step 1. So this is what test driven development is. Hope the steps are clear. 4-step process: write enough failing test case before writing any production code. Write just enough production code to make sure that your tests which are failing are now passing. Refactor the code and test if required, and then go back to the step 1. So this was the 4 steps of test driven development. Now let's go ahead and answer some of the very basic questions. Why TDD? Okay. Now, people, I'm not going to give you a very, generic or well-known answer over here, and I will tell you with the help of a, picture why TDD, why we need to do TDD. It is going to increase the quality of the code for sure. It is going to increase the, coverage of your code in terms of testing. It is going to, help you in debugging the things at later point of time. All these things are granted and taken. But there is one very, very, very important thing to understand before writing TDD or before even applying TDD. Why TDD? Reason being, TDD says that you need to write failing test case before writing the code. Now, how can you write failing test case? You have to understand your requirement properly before you are being able to do that. Which means that only and only when you know the requirements, you will be able to implement the failing test case. So with TDD, you understand the requirement properly, and TDD forces you to understand the requirement. What exactly are we trying to do? Why I'm writing this code? What this code will achieve? Can I do it in a different way? All these questions you will ask yourself if you do TDD. So you must know what you expect out of your code, and this is the very big plus of TDD. Guys, I have spent considerable amount of time in software development, and I have seen many a times people just writing code uh, without properly understanding the requirement. TDD forces you to understand the requirement, and that is the biggest plus point of using TDD. This is the one reason for using TDD. Okay. Now, when you write production code to, pass those failing test cases, there's step 2, which I have shown over here. Okay. Once you do that, what happens that you can be rest assured that your code is doing what it is expected to do, which means that your code is actually doing what it is expected to do. Just a moment, okay, I'll take a question coming. Yes, TDD in fact is part of the DevOps pipeline, Akshata. Very good question. And TDD makes sure that whatever code that comes in the DevOps pipeline is actually tested with all the test cases written as part of TDD. So yes, TDD plays a very, very important role in DevOps pipeline. Okay, so as we were talking about why TDD, two things I have told you. One extremely important thing, You have to understand the requirement why you are writing this code. And second thing, once your test pass, you can be rest assured that your code is doing what it is expected to do. Okay, now let's talk about the step 3 of TDD, which talks about refactoring of code or refactoring of the test. With the refactoring, refactoring plays a very, very important role in our day-to-day life. We always refactor. We refactor in our home. We refactor in many other things, right? I have arranged this setup. I always refactor to make sure that it looks better with every live stream. So with the refactor, you ask a question about your code first. Can I write this code in a better way or in a simpler way? So when you are writing one function, you don't need to refactor. But when you end up writing multiple functions, multiple lines of code, there will come a point where you will feel that you need to refactor the code to make it simpler and to make it easier to understand and learn. So with the refactoring part, you always think about, I can do this in a better way. Same thing goes for test. So, in TDD, the step 3, refactoring step is for both the code refactoring as well as test refactoring. If you are refactoring your code, it's unlikely that, you don't need to refactor your test. You need to do that. So effectively see the overall benefits of TDD. First and foremost, you are doing what you are expected to do. Second thing is that you are rest assured that your code is doing what it is expected to do. And with the refactoring steps, you make sure that you are, you know, trying to write things in a simpler way, trying to write things in the better way. Okay. Now, you cannot directly jump into TDD. There are some things to consider before jumping into TDD, and believe me, you must consider these things, otherwise, your TDD experience will be a bit difficult. Now, there are some prerequisite. Prerequisite is not about learning, prerequisite is something else, and I am going to tell you right now. First thing to consider is select a unit test framework. There are unit test frameworks available for all programming languages. Okay, so if we are using Python, there is unit test framework, or there are other unit test frameworks also. Java, JUnit, C++, Google Test, .NET, NUnit, or anything like that. You need to select a unit test framework first. Select your unit test framework. Now, at this moment of time, the unit test framework selection doesn't matter. What matter most is the writing the unit test code. So do not spend much time in it, but try to select unit test framework. Okay, first step, select a unit test framework. Okay, there is a question. I would like to take this question. This is a very interesting question. Does TDD help functional or integration testers too? Okay, so here is the answer for this particular question. Let me put the question in the screen again. Does TDD help functional or integration testers too? Now, TDD as a test case must be written by, you know, TDD test cases must be written by the software developer. Now, it helps the integration tester or functional tester in a way that, most of the obvious bugs that are supposed to be caught during development, during the writing of the code, will not be caught at the functional or integration test level, which means that functional or integration test can, rely on some of the unit tests and, try to make sure that they are writing code which are, actually just testing multiple aspect of the functionality or multiple aspect of the integration. So in that sense, yes, it helps. Okay, if you are finding very obvious things, okay, if you are finding very obvious things in your functional test, integration test, that's a very clear signal that your unit tests are not good. You need to improve your unit test. Always remember, we need to left shift things. Okay, Now, thank you for this question. And now I'm coming back to things to consider. The first thing was select a unit test framework. And once you selected a unit test framework, for every unit test framework, there is a particular way to write unit test in that. Get to know the way to write unit test in that. This is the second step. Third step is that, and it is extremely important, and I will call it as the most important aspect of unit testing. And this most important aspect of unit testing is learn how to create mocks, fakes, and stubs. These are very, very important, guys. Okay. And if you really want to understand what are mocks, fakes, and stuff, there is a video in my channel about unit test. I have explained, that what is meaning of mock, fakes, or stubs, and what under what conditions you should make use of that. So get the unit test framework, get to know write basic test. Most important, learn how to write mocks, fakes, and stubs, and then integrate the unit test framework into your IDE. Whatever IDE for Java, IntelliJ, PyCharm, all the unit test frameworks can be integrated into the IDE. It helps, it makes it easier to write unit test cases. We will see one example just now in a moment. So these are the 4-step things you need to do before starting onto TDD, and then you start TDD. Okay. So before jumping into TDD, consider these things. Okay. Now you have everything set up in your system. You have integrated with the IDE. How to write the first unit test case? What is the steps we need to do to write first unit test case? Can we relate or draw unit test cases from the acceptance criteria mentioned by the product owner? Well, yes and no. So when you are writing the unit test cases, you must understand the requirement. I think what I'm going to tell you right now will clear this particular topic. So before writing your first test case, you need to understand the requirement. How will you understand the requirement? Requirement document is one thing, and verbal discussions are another thing. Architecture design document is another thing, and as per this question also, acceptance criteria mentioned by product owner is also one of the things that will feed into understanding of the requirement. Okay, so anything that can feed into understanding of the requirement is more than welcome to understand what needs to be done. So there will not be one-to-one relationship between an acceptance criteria or one unit test case, but it helps developer to understand the requirement properly. So first you understand the requirement, then understand how you want to get the results. No, these two are not same things. Understanding the requirement and how you want to get the results are two different things. Okay, so there are multiple ways to get one thing done. As a very simple or trick question comes in software development, saying that interchange two number without using any third number, right? This is one of the trick question that beginner level software engineers are generally being asked. So, or there is a way to use third variable, third number to interchange two number. So you need to understand, a developer need to understand how you want to get the results, how you want to implement the same. Because your unit test cases will depend upon how you want to implement the same. So first understand the requirement, understand how you want to implement the same. Third thing, decide onto functions and variables names. So when you are writing unit test, you are calling a function, right? How will you call a function if you don't know the name of the function, right? So decide onto name of the functions, classes, variables, and then write your first test case. Now you are writing your first unit test case. Let's see a very simple example over here. But before writing unit test code, one thing you must understand. Test event development means that writing test code before writing any production code. But when we talk about writing test code before writing any production code, this doesn't mean that you cannot write any production code. I'll show you in a moment. Please don't get confused. You can write non-functional production code before writing failing test. Remember, non-functional production code. Now, what is a non-functional production code? Let's go ahead and see. Let's assume that I am creating a class which will have a function to sum two integers, and the class name is sum integer. Okay. So let me write a non-functional code first. So what I will do is that I will write a non-functional code. This is a non-functional code. What I have did over here is that I have created a function, or I have written a function, an empty function. So in this case, I know what is the function name, sum to number, and function signature. It takes two integer variables, right? So in this case, I have created a non-functional production code. Now, once I know the name of the function and class it, I can go ahead and write the test. Okay. And here is how I'm gonna write the test. I will write the test, and almost all the what you say unit test framework use something similar syntax. Okay, you will create the instance of class, you'll call the result, and you will assert whether things are, I mean, equal or not. Now you will run the test will fail. Okay, now go back to your non-functional code, add the functional aspect of it. So this is the functional code which we are writing after writing the, you know, what test cases. Okay, and after that you will run the test again, test will pass, and then you will go ahead and start with second test. Okay, so this is how your test driven development will look like. Now, one thing which I forgot to tell you, that you can write TDD without using any test framework, but if possible, please avoid it. Okay, so this is what TDD looks like, and I will show you a very simple demo in Java how the TDD looks like. Let's go ahead and see the code. Okay, so as of now, I am having this Java code, and decrease the okay. This is what happens when you want to run things in a demo. Okay. Okay, this is a simple Java code which is printing a TDDs. Okay. What happened? Yeah, it is printing TDD. Sorry for some confusion, guys. So let me create a class over here. Let me call a simple class. So I am creating a simple class again. This simple class will sum two numbers. So what I will do, I will write a function public int sum two number int a int b, and what I will do is that I'll say return 0 for now. So remember, till now here I haven't written any functional code. Okay, are you seeing this? I haven't written any functional code. So these are non-functional code. So let me go ahead and write the test for this sum to number. So if you integrate with your IDE, it's easy to generate test cases. So I have generated this particular test case for my sum to number function. So what I will do over here is that I'll create the instance of simple, new simple, and I'll say int result equal to s dot add uh, sum to number, let's say 10 comma 20, and I will assert equals I'll say 30 comma result. So I'm expecting result to be 30. Now if I go ahead and run this test will fail, and it should fail because there is no implementation, right? So you can see test is running and this test is failing. Now since I have a failing test, I'll go back to my class and I'll change this. Now I am writing functional code a plus b. This looks very simple just because it's a very simple function, but in reality this is how you are gonna do it. And once you are keep on doing it, it is gonna be, you know, it will generate a test bank for you. Right now you can see this test is pass. Okay, so this is how you write a small TDD code. And in this case what had happened is that, there is no need to refactor because it's a very small amount of code. I will not refactor it, but yes, I will write test, passing test, and this way I'll keep on writing test. And let me tell you the biggest benefit of TDD, the biggest benefit of TDD. You are writing test today, writing code today, and that code is gonna stay for some time. Now, after 6 months or an year, you come and you are adding some additional piece of code, or somebody else comes and writes some additional piece of code. How do you know that all those 100 test cases you have written, it is not impacting any one of them? Very simple. After changing the code, just write the test, just run the test cases. You will come to know that all those test cases are either running successfully still, or some of them are failing, which will tell you, you know what, because of my changes, some part of the system, I mean, there is some difference happened to some system, and because of which I am getting this failure. So that's all for TDD, guys. I hope and believe that I was able to explain the TDD in the easiest possible way, and you liked the way I have explained it using the pictographic language. So since there will be some 20-30 second delay between what I'm saying over here and till the time it reaches to you, I'll be here for a while, maybe next 30 seconds or so. If you have any questions, you can just write in the chat section and I will try to answer that question. And if not, then I will close this live stream. So thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel. Well, I hope there is no more question. If there are any additional questions, please feel free to write it in the comment section. I generally look into the comment section and reply some of the question about which I think I can reply in few lines. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. We will meet again. Until the next time we meet. Good day, goodbye. You take care.